What if I told you that Rome, with all of its grandeur, innovation, and legends, owes a significant part of its legacy to a civilization that remains largely mysterious? Gladiators, chariot racing, togas, sewers, these staples of Roman culture didn't begin with Rome at all. In fact, they were inherited from an ancient, powerful people who dominated central Italy long before the rise of the Roman Republic, the Etruscans. Today, we're uncovering Italy's greatest mystery, Rome under the Etruscan sun. We will dive into the origins of the Etruscans, explore their mighty influence on Rome, and see how their legacy shaped one of the world's greatest civilizations. So buckle up, because this journey is going to change the way you see ancient Italy forever. Last video, we spoke about the conflict between the early Romans and the Sabines. At least in this mythological retelling, Rome fought a hard, bitter battle with their Sabine rival before the latter was integrated. But when looking at the whole political landscape of Italy, the Sabines and even the Romans themselves were small beans in comparison with the great northern neighbors in Etruria. There's always a bigger fish. Imagine Italy in the 6th century BC. Before Rome was the center of the world, it was merely a small, developing city-state, a conglomeration of several villages. But to the north of Rome lay Etruria, home to a thriving civilization that stretched across modern-day Tuscany. This wasn't just a collection of small towns. The Etruscans were a major Mediterranean power, their influence spreading across Italy and even reaching the Eternal City itself. The cities of Florence, Pisa, Siena, which we know today for their Renaissance glory, were once bustling Etruscan centers of trade, culture, and power. Even the name Tuscany derives from the Etruscans, known to the Romans as the Tusci, and to the Greeks as the Tyrrhenians, hence the name of the Tyrrhenian Sea. But where did they come from? Historians have debated this for centuries. Some, like the ancient historian Herodotus, believe that the Etruscans migrated from the eastern Mediterranean, possibly from Lydia in modern Turkey. Others, including Dionysius of Halicarnassus, argued that they were native Italians. Modern DNA studies point to the Etruscans being indigenous to Italy, tracing their roots back to the Villanovan culture, which emerged around 1100 BC. To understand the Etruscans, we need to go back even further to this Villanovan culture itself. These early Italic people lived in simple circular huts made of wattle and daub, surrounded by fertile land that supported agriculture and trade. They also had this fascination with horses, a symbol of wealth and status, which later played a significant role in Etruscan society. By 750 BC, around the date of the mythological founding of Rome, the Villanovans had developed into the Etruscans, and their small villages became thriving cities like Tarquinia, Cerveteri, and Veii, known for their intricate tombs and impressive fortifications. These cities were more than just population centers. They were independent city-states, each powerful in its own right, but bound together by shared culture, religion, and language. Unlike Rome, which would later become a unified republic, then an empire, the Etruscans never centralized their power. They ruled through a loose confederation of city-states. Places like Veii, Volci, and Tarquinia were bustling hubs of trade and commerce, enriched by their natural resources. Etruria had rich deposits of copper and iron, making them masters of metalworking and a dominant force in Mediterranean trade. They traded with the Greeks, Phoenicians, Carthaginians, exchanging iron, Bucero pottery, and wine for luxury goods and slaves. Their strategic location allowed them to interact with and learn from some of the most advanced cultures of the time. Etruscan society was complex and stratified. aristocratic families dominated political and religious life, but what's especially intriguing is the role of women in Etruscan culture. Compared to other ancient civilizations, Etruscan women enjoyed far more freedom. They could own property, attend public events, and were often depicted in art alongside men, sharing in social and religious life. Speaking of art, the Etruscans left behind a stunning legacy of tomb paintings, bronze sculptures, and pottery. These tombs, especially those in places like Cerveteri and Tarquinia, give us incredible insights into their way of life, depicting banquets, dancing, and even gladiatorial games, a tradition later, of course, borrowed by the Romans. Their religious practices, particularly haruspicy, which is divining the future by examining animal entrails, and augury, which is interpreting the will of the gods through bird flight, were also later adopted by the Romans. We see this in the Romulus and Remus story. The Etruscans believed heavily in fate, and their influence on Roman religious practices cannot be overstated. Now here's where it gets really interesting. As the Romans grew in power, they didn't reject Etruscan culture, but they absorbed it. This will be a growing trend with the rise of the Roman Republic and its transition to an empire as well. Early Roman kings, like Tarquinius Priscus and Servius Tullius, were of Etruscan descent. The fasces, a bundle of rods symbolizing authority, which we often associate with Rome, was actually an Etruscan symbol of power. We get fascism from fasces. Etruscan urban planning and engineering were vital in shaping early Rome as well. The Cloaca Maxima, Rome's first major sewer system, was built under Etruscan influence. Even the famous toga has Etruscan roots, evolving from a type of robe worn by the Etruscans. But the most iconic Roman practices, chariot racing and gladiatorial games, were also borrowed from the Etruscans. The Etruscan funerary games, held in honor of the dead, featured fighters battling each other in what would become the blueprint for Roman gladiators. So with all of this influence on Rome, why didn't the Etruscans thrive alongside their southern neighbors? The answer lies in disunity. While the Romans centralized and unified, the Etruscan city-states remained fiercely independent, often competing with each other. By the 5th century BC, they were weakened by internal strife and external pressures, especially from the Gauls and the rising power of Rome to the south. The Etruscans fought fiercely to maintain their independence, but by the 3rd century BC, most of their cities had fallen under Roman control. Yet, even as Rome conquered Etruria, the influence of the Etruscans continued to shape the burgeoning Roman Republic, and later, the Empire. The Etruscans might have been eventually overshadowed by Rome, but their legacy is undeniable. They laid the foundation for Roman architecture, religion, and society, and many of the traditions we associate with ancient Rome were, in fact, Etruscan innovations. Without the Etruscans, there would be no Rome, at least as we know it. So next time you watch Gladiator and Ben-Hur, or go to a toga party, remember that it all began under the Etruscan sun. If you found this exploration of ancient Italy fascinating, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into the lost civilizations that shaped our world. And hey, if you know someone who's obsessed with Roman history, share this video with them. They might be surprised to learn just how much Rome owes to its mysterious northern neighbors. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out our other videos on all things Rome. Click right here to see how Rome treated its other neighbor, the Sabines. See you next time.